Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on how to create a marketing plan for your business. One of the things that I've realized over the years is, the more structure we have, the more discipline we have, the more systems and processes we put in place, the better it is for our business. So what I'm going to share with you today is a very, very simple template that any one of you can use to create a marketing plan. And this is what I recommend you do, is at the beginning of every year, and if you haven't done it up to now, that's okay. But at the beginning of every year, you start off the year creating a marketing plan for the next 12 months. And then what you want to do is, as you go through the year and things change, you want to update your marketing plan. And I recommend you do that every 90 days. And I've created this really simple template that I use, and I encourage you to create your own or even use mine as a template that you can use to keep you focused and on track. For those of you that haven't met me before, my name is Andrew Patricio, and I've always been a business owner. But for the last 25 or so years, I've been educating, training, and trying to inspire business owners to build successful businesses. And it's really interesting when you work with so many business owners, how much you learn. You learn from these different business owners, the different paths they take to succeed in their own businesses. And I'm going to share with you today some of those examples or some of the stories or some of the case studies of these business owners and how they've used a marketing plan to build their own businesses. But I think the key thing really important here is often when a presenter like me or somebody else says to you, you need to create a business plan or a marketing plan or a financial plan, whatever it is, we get a bit caught up in the detail. And the truth is that as long as you understand what needs to be done, that's the most important thing. There's no one structure or one size fits all. You'll come to one of my webinars, and I'll show you what I use, and then you'll go to somebody else's webinar, and they'll say, no, this is what we use. So there's no one size fits all. So I want you to understand that there's a whole lot of different ways that you can use it. So my system, I think, is very simple. And the reason it's very, very simple is I like simple stuff. Whenever I create plans or strategies or work on anything for my business, I'm a regular to-do list type person. So I like to write things down, and then as I go through the process, just cross them out. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I like really, really simple stuff. Nothing too fancy, easy to understand, easy to edit, easy to update. So whatever template I create, and some of you have been on these webinars quite a few times, you'll see that I try and keep it as simple as possible. And the reason is that you don't need to complicate these things. So when it comes to your marketing, one of the first things you want to focus on are what are your marketing objectives? And I'm going to give you a couple of examples on the next few slides. But you've got to be very, very clear on what you want to achieve over the next 12 months. And it also depends on what stage your business is at. For example, if you're in an industry that's going through a recession now or struggling somehow, maybe one of your goals this year could be to retain your customers. Maybe one of your goals could be to communicate more with your customers. These are the type of things, or increase the sales per customer, whatever it is. But just be very, very clear on what you want to achieve. And the key thing I want you to understand is that depending on the stage of your business, I remember a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, whenever I employ a new marketing person, one of the first things I get them to work on is to create a marketing plan for our business. And usually we'd use a template like this or something similar, or if they'd been to university and worked on a specific program, I'd encourage them to use that. But one of the objectives we had, I just bought my partner out, and one of the marketing people I was speaking with, she said to me, which of our clients can we get a really good reference from? And at the time, I was not responsible for the sales and marketing. And I said, I don't know the answer to that question, which is a big problem. If you've got customers that you're supplying regularly and you're not sure if they'll give you a good reference, that's a problem. And that is exactly what happened, is that became one of our objectives for the next 12 months, is how do we build closer relationships with our customers so that when we ask them for a reference, when we ask them to refer us, they'll do this with confidence. So there's a very good example of maybe not a traditional marketing objective. You know, because usually when we discuss marketing objectives, they'll be number focused. I might say, for example, next year, I want to make $200,000 of revenue, or I want to increase the number of visitors to our website from 5,000 to 10,000, or whatever. It's usually number-based. So the thing I want you to understand is when you create marketing objectives for your business, obviously, if you can put numbers to them, that's perfect. But some of them will not have numbers, like improving references and things like that. Maybe it won't be as number-based or number-focused like the others. So that's the first thing. The second thing you need to do that changes as your business evolves is your target market. And I think this is something that all of us need to be aware of, that there's a lot of things that influence what customers we're selling to. Sometimes it's the stage we are in our business. Sometimes it's a new opportunity that we've identified because of technology changing. So there's always these changes that are taking place in your industry. And you as a business owner need to decide who your target market is, or your target customers. And the more clarity you have on that, the better it is for you, because it makes your marketing more effective. When you know which customers you want to go after, then you can just target them. You can create a profile of them and you can just target them. I'm going to discuss that a little bit more later on. But firstly, set your marketing objectives. Once you've set your marketing objectives, the next thing you want to do is be very clear on what customers you're going to go after. You might decide, for example, to nurture your current customers. You might decide to go after customers that, I don't know, your premium customers or whatever. And the way you'll find this out is by analyzing who's buying your stuff at the moment. And one of the easiest ways to analyze who's buying your stuff at the moment is look at your invoices. You know, these are the type of things you'd be able to do. Or, you know, just do a little bit of a survey in your store and try and identify who are these people that are buying our stuff. Because if we can identify who's buying our stuff, and even more accurately, who's buying our profitable stuff, we can then identify more people like that. And this is really important that you understand this, that the most successful businesses in the world are very clear on who the ideal customer is. Actually, over the weekend, I was at a friend's house and we were discussing Starbucks. And we were talking about their coffee and a bunch of different things. But one of the things that's made Starbucks very, very successful is they're very clear on who their customer is. And they've stuck to that through the years. And it's really important. For example, I'm not one of their customers. I'll sometimes go into a Starbucks, very, very seldom go into a Starbucks. So they shouldn't be advertising to people like me. They should be advertising to people that are already Starbucks buyers or potential Starbucks buyers, or people that in their target market they've realized are buying. For example, if you travel internationally like I do, you'll often see it's like digital nomads. A lot of people in tech seem to hang out at Starbucks, a younger generation, maybe not very young, but a younger generation. And one of the advantages, or one of the reasons I think they do that, is because one of them is just because, you know, you can get free internet there if you're traveling internationally. But be very, very clear on who your target customers is. And the key thing, yeah, is you don't want to have too many different segments. You know, you might say, for example, you know, Andrew, we don't have only one segment. We have maybe 2 or 3 different ones. That's okay. And then let's say you do identify that you've got 2 different target markets with different needs, then you could create marketing plans for each one of them. And that's exactly what you want to be doing, is you want to try and understand them as much as possible. And once you understand them, you can then offer them the products or services that they need. So thinking about your target customers is an important thing. The third thing you want to think about is your competitors. And again, one of the things we've got to do as business owners is understand, firstly, who our competitors are and try and find out as much as possible about them. You know, for some of you, it's a matter of getting a clipboard, sending one of your staff into your competitor's store and, you know, looking at what they're charging for different products like you sell. If you're in the service business, it's a matter of maybe asking somebody that you know to get a quote from one of your competitors, so you get an idea of how much they're charging for similar services. And I know some people don't feel comfortable doing this. I mean, this has happened quite a few times during my webinars or seminars where I've said to people, you know, you've got to go and find out about who your competitors are and how much they're charging and things like that. And some people don't feel that's very ethical. And I'm not so sure about that. Because if I'm in business to make a profit, the more I understand about my competitors, the better it is. And let me tell you something, if you're not checking your competitors' price out, they're definitely checking your prices out. It's a very, very common thing that goes on an ongoing basis. So if you feel a little bit uncomfortable with this, I understand it, but I want you to get over it, because understanding who your competitors are and how much they charge for different products and services is really, really important. Actually, whenever I speak to small business owners and they say to me, Andrew, I don't know if I'm charging the correct prices, one of the first things I'll say to them is go and find out how much your competitors are charging, then we can have the discussion. So it's a regular thing that you should be doing, and all of us should be doing it. The fourth thing that is something, again, that you work on a regular basis is your value proposition. You know, one of the things we've got to learn very, very early on as small business owners is that we've got to differentiate ourselves. And especially those of us that are in very, very competitive industries, you know, and think of most small businesses. You know, you're in a very, very competitive industry and the customer has so many different options. You know, if I want to go for lunch any day of the week, there's 20 different small businesses in my area that I could go for lunch to. And some of the things that will influence my decision will be, for example, the customer service, maybe the speed of service, maybe the quality of the ingredients, you know, in their menu, maybe the fact that they've got parking. But all of those different things are things that influence my decision. Will price be one of them? Absolutely. But it won't be the only thing. I think price is an important criteria, but we got to be very, very careful. Often as business owners, we always assume, especially in the early stages of our business, is we're losing a lot of business because of the prices we charge. And I'm here to tell you that price is an important thing, but it's not the most important thing. And when you focus too much on price, it's a bit of a dangerous thing, because somebody can open up nearby you and compete on price and take your customers away. So try and identify different things that make you different. You know, in retail, it may be your range of products. It may be, for example, when I was a retailer, we used to, this time of the year, I was saying to somebody the other day, you know, we were the king of hot cross buns. We used to make them by the thousands. People used to know us as, when it was Easter, you'd go to Hatton's for your hot cross buns or your cinnamon buns. I was even explaining to somebody how you bake them. But you want to try and find something that differentiates you, you know, so even if you're a regular convenience store, for example, and all convenience stores basically sell the same stuff, but you want to get something that draws people to your store. And it might be your range of products. It might be, I mean, service is always important for small business, but even that, I don't think it's enough. You know, I don't think any of those things are enough on their own. We want to find different things. And I encourage you to do this. I encourage you to sit down with your staff, or even if you don't have staff, sit down with some other business owners and, work on a brainstorming session of what differentiates us from our competitors. What is it that we do better? What is it that we do different? And I want you to think about this as a business owner, because just think of it, anytime you go out, let's say you're going out for dinner and you go to a main street anywhere, you've got a couple of options. I want you to think about what influences your decisions. That's what you want to think about, is what influences. Is it the menu? Is it the service? Is it the fact that they've got TVs that you can watch sports on? What is it that differentiates that business? And as a business owner, you've got to find that. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. You may survive in the early stages, but over time, you're going to struggle because you don't have anything that differentiates you. So you almost want to be looking all the time. Actually, when it comes to retail specifically, I think it's a very, very good idea to regularly go out and see what other competitors are. And don't only see in your region, go to other regions, get in a car and drive to another area, to another city, and you'll learn things from different businesses. I, for example, really like retail. I was a retailer for 11 years, but never stopped loving retail, which is really interesting. So I like looking at good retail stores. Actually, friends of mine and family, whenever they see a really good retail experience, they'll say to me, you should go and see this store. They do a really good job. And that's what happens when you go around, observing what other similar retailers are doing. Or even if you're in the service business, looking at what other businesses are doing is a very, very good idea, because then that helps improve your value proposition. So you introduce something that is different, that is unique, that is special, and you've got to try and identify it. I know, for example, with myself, I've worked in quite a few different countries. And currently I'm working in Europe on an interesting project. And then it even becomes more difficult because, people are saying, so why should we use you? I mean, you're from a different country, you don't understand our culture, the way businesses run, whatever, why should we use you? So you're almost forced to identify your value, forced to come up with reasons why you are different to your competitors. And it's a very, very good exercise to do. The next thing you want to think about is what marketing tools are you going to use? And yes, something that's really, really important that you've got to understand as a business owner is you don't have to do everything everybody else is doing. That's the first thing. The second thing, and this is a personal issue with me, is that often people think that, the new marketing tool is going to be the one that's going to solve the problem. So people get all caught up in, using social media and TikTok and all those type of things. The reality is that you can use those tools. And for some businesses, they work really, really well. But if your business, if you're generating revenue using traditional marketing tools and they're working well for you, don't stop doing them. And just be very, very careful. I was speaking to an architect the other day, and she was saying to me, she uses Instagram ads to get customers. And I said, okay, that's really interesting. I said, are you an expert in Instagram? She said, no. And I said, how many customers have you got? She said, 1. And I said to her, in the areas that you live in, have you joined any Facebook groups? And she said, no, not really. I prefer Instagram. I said, well, it's not about you. It's about the customer. And then I went to one of the, interestingly enough, I was part of one of the Facebook groups in the city that she's in. And I saw somebody saying, we're looking for a architect and designer. And there's a very, very good example. So sometimes the business is there in front of you. You can spend money on marketing if you want to, but you don't have to if you're very creative. I know when I first started my retail business, I did not have the budget to spend on ads, to spend on doing thousands of flyers and things like that. So I had to get creative, and I encourage you to get creative. Don't assume that because everybody else is creating Instagram Reels or using TikTok or whatever it is and spending hours on that thing, it's the solution. So I want you to understand that. So you've got to find the marketing tools that work for you. And if it's traditional ones and it's working for you, don't change as long as it's working. That's the key thing. The next thing you want to think about, and I think this is very, very important actually, that I think, very, very often when we first start out in our own businesses, we're obsessed with customer service. All of us, we're obsessed with customer service. Like, the customer can't do anything wrong, and we try and help them as much as possible. But you've got to be very, very careful that once you've been in a business for a while, that your customer service is not as good as it used to be, or the standards have dropped a little bit. And I think this is something that's really, really important, especially in this current climate we're going through, where it's difficult to get employees. If you're struggling to get employees, you're often not taking the best possible person available. You may be taking the second best or the third best. What you're going to be very careful of is that they understand what good customer service is. And you've got to make sure that you measure this on a regular basis. In retail, when I was in retail, we used to use the mystery shopper program. So we'd have random people that we didn't know who they were as owners, or the staff didn't know, and they would come and shop our store, and then they'd evaluate us. And those are some of the ways you can do that. But you want to listen to your customers. The other thing you want to learn to do, which is really, really important, is I used to always say to our employees, the customer that complains wants to come back. The customer that doesn't complain goes to our competitors. So you've just got to be aware of this and maybe more empathetic to customers that complain about different things or different experiences they're having in our business. And because the standards that you want, maybe not the ones that you're achieving. And in small business, this is the only thing, let me be honest with you, this is the only thing that differentiates us from big businesses, is we can build relationships with our customers. Customers will come and buy in your business just because they like you. I mean, sounds crazy, but that is exactly what happens. We get our favorite customers, our favorite businesses to do business with. And I don't know if you like that, but I know we like that, is that once we build the relationships, even with our suppliers, we want to keep giving them work. Why? Because we like working with them. We don't always base our decision on price. So you want to make sure that your customer service is really, really good. And if you're on a main street, it needs to be better than any other business in that main street. The next thing you want to think about, and this is really a big problem for me with business owners. We've been in business for 20 years this year. And over the last 20 years, we've worked with a lot of subcontractors. We work with videographers, we work with editors, we work with writers, we work on different projects that we've worked on. These are the bigger projects that we work on. And I find it very, very interesting that once we've worked with these people, very, very often, I never hear from them again. So they don't follow up. And you just got to be very, very careful of being one of those businesses. If a customer picks up the phone and phones your business, it's because they want to buy. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you just put on the phone and don't get any of their details, you've lost an opportunity. That's what's happened. You've lost this opportunity to nurture this lead. Because sometimes what happens is we're doing a bit of research. So doing a bit of research, pick up the phone a bunch of businesses and say, hi, do you sell this or you do this or whatever it is? But maybe we're not ready to buy. So I want you to understand the importance of this, of creating a process, creating a way, especially for the service businesses, creating a process or creating a way to communicate with your customers. Because customers that come to you to buy or maybe not ready to buy. So you got to communicate with them. So that's the first one. The second one are your existing customers. Again, any of you that sell a service, think of it. If I've bought from you before, I will probably buy from you again. But sometimes you have to remind me. You've got to say, hi, Andrew, you remember me. I did your roof, or I did your plumbing, or I did your carpentry, or I did your whatever it is that you do. And we're growing our business, and I just want to know if you're looking for any of our service. If you are, give us a call. If you're not, doesn't matter. This is what I recommend to all businesses. Everybody in your database, see, there are two sides to the story. Everybody in your database should get a message from you at least every 90 days, just so you can remind them that you're still in business, because that is a big, big opportunity. And then when it's a brand new customer, you've got to collect their details, their phone number or their email address or something as a way that you can communicate with them. And it's really important that you understand that. But I can't tell you how many times this will happen when I go into a small business. They don't ask you for any details. You say, you know what, I'm looking for this. They say, well, look, we don't have it now, but if you give us a call, we'll see what we can do. The point is that that person's probably not going to come back. So it doesn't matter what your business is. If a customer comes into a store and says, I'm looking for this product, you don't have it, it's an opportunity to ask them for their name, their phone number, and follow up a little bit later on. Does it guarantee success? Absolutely not. But the point is that some of those customers are going to buy. So you've got to create a lead nurturing strategy. And that's quite a big word, actually. I wish I could come up with a better term for that. But you've got to find a way of following up is basically what I'm saying. And then the last two things you've got to think about in business is what is going to be your budget for marketing over the next 12 months and how you're going to measure success. And I think with a very simple template like this, you could even put it in a to-do list format, so start off with what are my marketing objectives? Who are going to be the customers we're going to go after over the next 12 months? Who are our competitors? How much are they charging? And you could even have that on a separate page. What is our value proposition? Is there anything different? Has it changed? Is it the same thing? Should we refine it? Those are the type of things you want to think about. What are the marketing tools that we're going to be using to get new customers? Or what are the customer service strategies? Do we need to improve it? Do we need to train our people? And what are we going to do to follow up? And I think if you start working on these things and you use this type of structure, you're going to become a much better business owner. And the key here is the structure, the format. So let's go through what I'm going to try and do now is go through each heading and try and identify things that you should be thinking about. And just remember, as we go along, if you've got any questions, you can just post them in the chat and I'll try and answer them. But remember, on Thursday, we've got a mastermind where I'm going to focus on some of the questions that you've asked and other business owners have asked me. So when it comes to marketing objectives, so let's say I've got a heading on my marketing plan, marketing objectives, or marketing goals. If you don't like the word objectives, maybe say my marketing goals over the next 12 months. So the first thing you want to think about is increasing sales. And I mean, this is a given. Every single business, doesn't matter who they are, have got to grow at least at the rate of inflation. At least at the rate of inflation, we've got to grow. So if last year I did $100,000, maybe this year, my goal is to do 105 or 110, depending on the industry you're in. But the more specific you are, the better it is for you. So say, last year we did 100,000. Our goal this year is to do 115,000. You write it down. So those are the type of things you want to put under your marketing objectives or your marketing goal. Maybe one of your marketing objectives or goals is to diversify your lead source. And again, a big term and maybe sounds really sophisticated, but to try and find different sources of leads. Is there a way maybe you can form some partnerships? Is there a way maybe you can grow your email database? Is there a way you can maybe get more foot traffic coming into your business? Is there, those are the type of things I want you to think about. is things that you maybe haven't done before. And again, here's the thing, is that when we try new stuff, there's a very good chance it's not going to work. But the point is, if we don't try, we'll never know. So I encourage you to try and be creative, come up with different ways of doing things. I find that sometimes, especially if we've been in the industry for a long time, I mean, I'm even like it. People will say to me, why don't you try this? And I'll say, I don't know, we've tried that before and it doesn't work. Just be very, very careful of being one of those people. And I think sometimes I'm one of those people, is that we because we've been doing this for such a long time, we almost get stuck in our ways and think, what I'm doing is working. Why would I change? So I want you to try and think of things, and when you diversify your lead source, maybe, for example, you're going to be a little bit adventurous and try something on Instagram, or try something on Facebook, or maybe do a little bit of search engine optimization or whatever it is. But these are the type of things you want to try. The most important thing, I think, is if you're going to try some type of marketing method or some new way of generating leads, is that you measure the effectiveness of it, which is really, really important. You might say, okay, we're going to try this. We're going to do flyers, for example. We're going to try flyers. We're going to do it for 3 months, and we're going to see how effective it is. Or let me give you another example. Let's say you decide you're going to try a trade show. Not my favorite place to go to, and maybe because of my personality, but trade shows can be very effective if done properly. How do we know if it's effective? We measure the results. We went to this trade show. It cost us $3,000 to attend. How many leads did we generate? Okay, so that's the way you want to identify that. So when you diversify your lead source, or where your customers come from, or how customers find you, what you want to try and do is always measure that effectiveness. The third thing you may decide to do, and again, the idea here is just for you to think about your own business and to come up with your own marketing objectives. The next thing is to maybe increase your email database. I mean, I'm a big fan of email marketing, and I'll speak a little bit more about it a little later on, but I'm a fan of email marketing. And the reason I'm a fan of email marketing is that has been our main source of leads over the years. We've built a big database. Obviously, we run webinars, we run seminars, we run workshops, and that is my way of getting customers. It's also maybe the way I feel comfortable doing it. Again, depending on your personality, what you sell, all those type of things will influence it. But that is often one of my strategies every year, is how do we increase our email database? How do we get more people to attend our webinars, how to attend our seminars, attend our workshops, sign up for our newsletter? Those are the type of things I'm trying to identify. So maybe that's one of your strategies, is maybe in 2023, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and collect customers' emails when they come into our store. And then on our website, we're going to allow them to sign up to our database. The other thing you may decide to do, and again, this can be very, very effective for certain businesses. And again, here's the key thing, is you've got to make sure that you measure the effectiveness. So if you're going to be spending more time on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, I think, you've got to almost make it like a project. I want to increase the number of followers we have on Instagram, or we've got a Facebook group. I want to increase the number of people that follow us. What are these strategies? Okay. And then you start thinking about different ways you can do that, ways you're going to create content, ways you're going to create video, and all that type of stuff. But that could be one of your objectives in your business, and improve your brand identity. You will see this sometimes in larger companies, is they will change their branding, they will do a couple of things, and then they'll relaunch their business. And you as a small business on a main street might think, you know what, that sounds all very well, but that's not something that I can do. But let me tell you something really, really simple. So when I was retail, what we used to try and do is every 2 years, we used to revamp our stores. And usually that involved simple things because we didn't have a lot of money, but simple things like we'd re-merchandise the store, or we'd repaint the store, or we'd add on a new department or whatever it is. And what happened was that used to create interest. And I want you to understand that. And it was really interesting that every single time we revamped our store, our sales grew faster than the previous year. So that's maybe something you can work on, is really improving the whole image of your business, your customer service, the cleanliness, the signage, all of those things. One of the things that I encourage you to do is to shop your retail store like a customer, and think about it is if I had the option, okay, so whatever your business is, if there was a franchise store similar to that, are the standards, is the image that you project similar to that franchise business? And if the answer is no, it's something you need to work on. Because very, very often I will go into retail stores and you can see the stores are tired. And usually it's because the owner's tired. They're overlooking the basic things. The front windows aren't cleaned regularly, or the store's not swept as often, or the signage is not like it used to be. And these are little things that you can work on. And I encourage you to work on these things. I encourage you to make these little changes to your business that people will start noticing. You maybe won't notice them, but your customers will. If you move something around in your store, if you change something, if you upgrade your menus, if you clean your store more often, these are the type of things you want to be doing. And these are opportunities. I've seen it, for example, on public transport recently. They've just done a couple of little things on public transport that I've noticed that improve that experience. And I think this is very, very important that you want to work on those things. So JD says if your business isn't ready for new customers from a promotion, it'll do more damage for your brand. I agree with you. That is the problem sometimes, is that you go and spend money on promotion and it actually has negative impact on your business rather than positive impact, because your store's just not up to standard. And sometimes working on those things are key. Create yourself a checklist. Go online and look for a, retail store checklist. Then go through, create your own, things. Are the lights all in good working order? How many times do you walk past a store or you're going to a restaurant? I had this scenario recently. I was in Madeira, a little island off the west coast of Africa, and almost every single restaurant I went to, even high-end restaurants, the button that you push, they have them on the top of their toilets were broken in all of these stores, in these fancy restaurants. And I thought to myself, really? This is a basic little thing that cost you in their case, €2 to fix, but you've decided not to do it. And it's sometimes those little things that we do in our business that give us a bad name or customers notice. So when it comes to your target customers, the more detail you have, sometimes the better. So things you want to think about is your demographic. And for some of your businesses, this is really, really important. In our business, psychographic is actually more important than demographic. But for some of yours, it is. Let's say you run a clothing store or something like that. You may target specific groups. You might say, we sell clothes for 18 to 25-year-olds or whatever it is. But just try and be very, very clear on exactly who you're going after. This also makes your marketing more effective. Let's say, for example, you decide to do Facebook ads, for example. If you decide to do Facebook ads, they're going to ask you, when you go in to do the Facebook ad, they're going to ask you, you want males or females? What age demographic do you want? What area? All those type of things. So the more information you have, the better it is. And I like using an example like this. Every now and then, I run a program called Summer Company and another one called Starter Company with different cities across the province. And every now and then I'll deal with these young business owners, and I'll say to them, so who's your ideal customer? And they say, no, but everybody needs our product. And I say, okay, I understand that everybody needs your product. But if you had to choose out of that group, who would be the ideal people? And a lot of people struggle with that. And then as you start asking them more and more questions, they eventually identify their ideal customer. And I want you to do the same exercise, especially those of you that think, well, everybody needs our stuff. And maybe everybody does need your stuff. But when you are marketing, whether it's the products you choose or the marketing tools that you use to market to these people, knowing who your ideal customer is makes it more effective. So if I know, for example, let's say I run a garden services. You know, if I run garden services business or landscaping services, and I want to go for the upper end of the market, people with money, maybe I'd walk around and, or get a map of the area, put it on my table and plot the more affluent areas. These are the basics of targeting your market. I mean, it's not that sophisticated, but it's really important because it'll make your marketing more effective. You may change your mind. You may try, for example, let's say you're doing 10,000 flyers. You might try 1,000 flyers in this area and see what response you get, and maybe another 500 or in this area and see what response. So to try and work out who responds to your marketing and advertising. The second thing that could influence who your target customers are, your psychographics. So what motivates these people to buy? That's what you want to think about. And one of my favorite examples is when I travel across North America mainly, I sometimes will go into Whole Foods, but I never really buy anything in Whole Foods. I don't understand. I'm a Trader Joe's fan, really not a Whole Foods fan. And I don't know, I've gone into certain stores, but very often when I go into a Whole Foods, I will see that a lot of the people there are young people. And I think to myself, really? So you cannot even afford to pay your university fees, but now you're walking into Whole Foods and buying these premium products. But again, it's lifestyle that influences their decisions. Maybe they're looking for organic or whatever. I don't know what the reason is, but understanding what motivates your customer is really, really helpful. And if you sell business to business, what you want to try and do is you want to identify the ideal business that you would sell to. So in our case, for example, being very, very clear on who our target customers is really helps us with getting new customers, because we know that there are, for example, economic development conferences. We have a couple of events that we go to every year that we don't have to go anywhere else, because this is where our people hang out. So understanding who your customer is helps make your marketing so much easier. When it comes to your customers, how they can also help you is by identifying new ideas for new products, for new services, for ways of doing things. You almost want to develop a relationship with your customers. There's a very interesting example that I just remembered as I was saying this. There's a store in Yonkers called Stu Leonard's, and it's a really interesting store. And the reason I found out about the store, there was a book many years ago, probably read it 20 years, maybe 25 years ago, called In Search of Excellence. And they spoke about different retail stores. And I love retailing. So I read In Search of Excellence, and they spoke about Stu Leonard's, and I went and visited the store. And it was quite an interesting shopping experience. Quite different, I must be honest. But the thing that they did, which was really smart, is they came up with a board of advisors, which were customers. So they'd meet with these customers once a month, and they'd say, so how are we doing? How do you like our product range? Were you happy with those peaches that you purchased last week, or whatever it is? But it's really important to try and get your customers involved in the decisions that you make, because your target market will tell you what they want. They will give you ideas that will help you improve your business, but only if you ask them. The other thing you want to try and identify is what influences customers' purchasing decisions. And again, depending on which customer you're selling to. For example, I'll be honest with you, I've never understood the concept of Uber Eats and all that type of stuff. And the reason I don't understand the concept, because that's not the way I buy food. That's not the way I buy food, okay? But obviously, 98% of the population do buy food like that. So coming to try and market to me is a waste of money. Whereas marketing or asking people that regularly do this really helps build your model. What you like about it, what don't you like about it, and things like that. So trying to understand what influences the customer's purchasing decision is really key. I'll give you an example that I'm obsessed with fruit and veg and quality fruit and veg. And I'm always prepared to pay a little bit more for quality, but that doesn't mean everybody's like me. Again, so if you're selling fruit and vegetables to me, the things that will influence my decision are the quality, the merchandising, those type of things. Actually, merchandising is a really important thing. I like going into markets and, so when I go into markets, fruit and veg markets, I will base my decision often on the merchandising and the quality of the product. So I'll look around and see which store merchandises the best. And then based on that, I will assume that those people probably know what they're doing. And that's when I buy their product. So understand what influences your customers' decisions. If it's a person that doesn't really know fruit and veg, it doesn't matter what you sell them, Doesn't matter how you merchandise it, how you sell it, they're just going to buy. The other thing you want to try and understand is, once you know who your customer is where do they seek information from? So, for example, you might decide you're going to do flyers. But if you're selling to a premium market, maybe distributing flyers is not the solution. So understanding who your customer is. And one of the big opportunities, I think, for retail is, and not for every retail, is to bring your customers into the store. And ask them to bring their friends with them, and almost like demonstrate things to them, especially if you're selling a premium product. You don't want to be, having people on the side of the road distributing flyers. Again, you've got to understand your customers. So if your customer's on Facebook, you should be on Facebook. If your customer's on Instagram, you should be on Instagram. If your customer's at the local, community center, you should be at the local community center. And understanding that it's going to influence your marketing. But you can ask your customers these questions because they'll be able to tell you. Otherwise, what happens is we're marketing on Instagram and our customers are on LinkedIn. So that's where we have a bit of and some of us, we make the decision because we like the platform, and then I'm really concerned about it. And the more you understand about your customers, the better it is. So that idea of having like a board of advisors or speaking to your most profitable customers on a regular basis is a good strategy. When it comes to your competitors, the type of things you want to be working on is, firstly, who are they? So I would start by doing a little bit of get a clipboard out or a spreadsheet and just write down your main competitors. You could even ask your customers this. If you build a good enough relationship with your customers, you could ask them, you just say, you know what, when you buy stuff like ours, who do you buy from? If you're in the painting business, when you have your house painted, who do you go to? And you want to try and get this information, because this is really, really useful information that you can use, because then you can understand what motivates them. So, for example, if you identify 3 or 4 competitors, you can go into the stores. You can go into their stores, look at how clean their floors are, how they do their merchandising, how they do their pricing, all of those things. So you can do that. So that's the first thing you want to do, is identify them. The second thing you want to identify is, why do people buy from them? So what are their strengths? And more importantly, what are their weaknesses? But yeah, you've got to be absolutely honest with yourself. Often, when people ask us about our competitors, we'll say negative things, which is human nature, I think. But the truth is, if your competitor's surviving in business, they must be doing something right. That's what you want to identify. Again, your customer is another good source of information there, because they can tell you about all your competitors, what they do, what they don't do, what they do well, what they don't do well. Again, so use your customers. The next thing you want to understand is, how do your competitors market their products or services? I mean, I was looking at somebody this morning. It's not something we do, but I was looking at somebody this morning that helps food businesses. And it happens on the internet. You click on something and then it shows up in your Instagram and your Facebook and whatever it is. But I found it very, very interesting that, I could think of it as a competitor, which I don't, but that would be an example, is if I was in the food business, running training programs for food businesses, that's something I would do. I would go to a website, I would check out what she's doing, what programs she's offering. I would check out on LinkedIn. I would look at her Instagram ads, all of those type of things. And you want to do the same thing. Doesn't matter who the business is in your area, and try and find the most successful ones. And try and identify what makes them more successful. What are they doing? Is it their merchandising? Is it the cleanliness of their store? Is it the range of products? Is it special promotions that they're running? These are the type of things you've got to understand. And in retail, you've got to understand that it's making that customer experience fun. And that's really important that you understand this, that a lot of people will be influenced by that customer experience, by going to those stores and really enjoying the whole thing. And it's a very visual experience for some customers. So go and check what your competitors are doing. See how much they charge. You've got to know, doesn't matter what product or service you have, you've got to know how much your competitors are charging. Is it easy to find out? Absolutely not. Sometimes it's very, very difficult to find out what your competitors are charging, but you need to have an idea so that you don't undercharge or overcharge, and who are their target customers. So it's really interesting to understand this stuff, especially if you're struggling a little bit, for example, to grow your revenue, if you're struggling a little bit to get profitable customers, if you're struggling a little bit with with customers asking for discounts and all that type of stuff, is to try and identify what are these competitors doing that is something that you can copy, or something that you can do better than them. So earlier on, I was speaking about a value proposition and the importance of this, and this is one of the things that I really struggle with. I really struggle with this. And I think it is because a lot of us are in quite generic businesses. So trying to differentiate yourself is very, very difficult. And the temptation is always there. People say, why should I buy from you? And you'll say, because our prices are good, our customer service is good, and our products and services are very good. The problem with that statement is that that's what everybody says. And that is not enough. And as a business owner, you've got to understand that. That's just not enough. We have the same situation in our business. We charge a premium for all of the products and services that we offer. We charge a premium for that. And, and sometimes customers will come to us and say, well, we can get it cheaper. And we say, we know. We absolutely know that you can get it cheaper. You can get yourself a project manager. You can employ all these people, and you can do it cheaper. There's no doubt in our minds. So we don't even apologize for that. But the thing that keeps you going, the thing that differentiates you, is you need to identify it. And it's very, very important that you do that. Because if you don't, you cannot charge a premium for your product or service, okay? Because people will walk into your store and they say, well, she's selling the same stuff as everybody else. Why should I pay more? So it's almost that experience, that buying experience, the way you do things is the key. So every single one of us need to think about this. How does our product or service solve customers' problems? Because once we can identify that, we can come up with value propositions. Is it convenience? Is it reliability? Is it the fact that you offer a turnkey service? And I encourage you to listen to ads on TV. You know, there's an example of somebody, I think it's called Anderson Windows and Doors. And then when you listen to the ads, they never speak about price. They always speak about, you know, we make the windows, we install them, and if you have a problem, you can come back to us. And you know, well, I don't know because I've never asked them for a quote, but I'm convinced they charge a premium for that. The way they justify it is they say, well, we make them, we install them, and we guarantee them. Do you understand? And those are the type of things you want to try and identify in your business. What are those other value-added things that you do that make you unique, different, and special? And you've got to find that. Or, for example, I've got this friend of mine, and he does this all the time. He'll go to a new city, and at the gas station or at the toll gate or whatever it is, he'll say, so what food is this city famous for? And because then he wants to eat it at that famous place. And that's what you want to try and do, is you want to differentiate yourself. You want to somehow be known for something. I know when I was a retailer, there were two key things that I always focused on. There were two things that I identified that we could do better than anybody else. Now, let me rephrase that I thought we could do better than anybody else. And the one thing we could do was roasted peanuts was something that we used to do in my retail store. And I believe we could do that better than anybody else, just to make them fresh all the time. And then our fruit and veg, I used to always believe that we could do it better than anybody else. But the thing is, we were just an ordinary retailer at the end of the day. I mean, we had lots of competitors in the city we were in. We were all selling the same stuff. What we did to differentiate ourselves was find those things. And I usually, when I'm teaching business owners, I always say, you want to find those chocolate-coated peanuts things, those things that are unique, that are different, that are tempting, that differentiate you from your competitors. Otherwise, just think of convenience stores. And if you go into a convenience store on a daily basis, they're all the same. They have the same stuff. They sell gift cards. They do this, blah, 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 but they all do the same thing. That's why they struggle, because it's those that differentiate themselves, that stand out from the crowd, that do better. And sometimes it's a new owner. I've seen this many times over the years. A new owner takes over a store, they paint the store, they re-merchandise it, they upgrade it, and all of a sudden the revenue grows. And why? Because they're doing something different. They're doing something unique. They're doing something special. So you want to try and identify that. And if you're in a very competitive business like a convenience store, you have no option. You've got to differentiate yourself, otherwise you're not going to survive. And so what benefits do you offer customers that are different to your competitors? And why should they choose you over your competitors? Okay. Another thing, for example, and I'm just thinking of some of these things that made us unique when I was in retail, was we had this bakery, and we used to make sure that every afternoon from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., which is when we used to do 80% of our revenue, we had bread in the oven. So you walked into the store, you smelled that, and you had no option. So these are the type of things you want to try and look at. You want to try and find something that makes you different, that makes you unique. Or for example, if I go to my little main street down the road, there's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 different spas. And I don't know which one to go to, because when I walk past, they all look the same to me. I have no idea which one is better than the others. And because I don't, which is really interesting, actually, now that I think about it, is they often don't get my business. I want to buy their service, but they don't get my business because there's almost like this paradox of choice, which is a big word for this time of the afternoon, but it's because there's nothing different. I get confused and I don't know what to buy. It's like going into the supermarket and there's 10 different types of ham, and you've got no idea which one to buy because you just really want ham. And if you don't eat the ham, that's fine. The next thing you want to do is you want to think about specifically what marketing tools you're going to use. You know, and one of the things that I've learned as a business owner is that sometimes the boring marketing tools the best, like the telephone. I think the telephone is one of the best marketing tools out there, because the truth is that it's not as busy as it used to be. I mean, I know my phone hardly ever rings nowadays, and that's the way I like it. But the point is, if somebody does call my phone, I might not always answer it, but if they leave a message, I'll always listen to it. And I want you to think about this. Is there an opportunity for you to do this? Is to pick up the phone and look for new business, or employ somebody to pick up the phone and look for new business. And this may be a solution for you, or to pick up the phone and phone people that have bought from you before. And these are some of the strategies. This is not very fancy, whatever it is, but it works. And I want you to understand that is maybe what everybody's doing is not the solution. Trying to be innovative, creative is what you want to be doing. The next thing I think is one of the most powerful marketing tools available out there. And I'm going to discuss it on the next slide. But email marketing could be your winner. And I've seen this many, many times with small businesses, is they start a newsletter or they start a whatever, and they start collecting emails. And what happens, it gives them a way of connecting with their customers. I mean, I've seen restaurants, for example, that have collected customers' emails, then used that to market to these people, to educate these people. So I want you to think about it, because you've got to find an affordable way to communicate with your customers, to say, hi, we're still in business. We are now making hot cross buns because it's Easter, coming to our store. That's what you want to be creating. And the reason you want to be doing that, it's measurable and it's affordable. And anything that is measurable and affordable, I like as a marketing tool. So that's one of the ideas. The next one is networking. You know, if you've been attending these seminars over the last few months or the last year that we've been running them, I've quite a few times mentioned the importance of, you know, connecting with your audience, connecting with your people, or finding out where your people hang out and you want to go to the same place. And this is really, really important. And I don't think it matters what industry you're in, because if you're a retailer, you know, hanging out with other good retailers is good for your business. You know, if you're a service business, you know, finding out where your customers hang out, going there is a good opportunity. And for some of us in smaller towns and cities, this is a big, big opportunity. You know, your local sports center, your local community places and things like that are places where you can hang out and be seen, and people get to know you and things like that. But one of the easiest and my favorite way of growing my business is by networking, even though it's not even something I enjoy doing, but I've realized it's very, very valuable, because you get to know people that can buy your product or services, or even if they don't buy your product or services, they can refer you to other people, which is a very, very powerful thing. The other thing you want to try and do is you want to try and do as many free things as possible. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about getting free publicity, for example. You know, you can try and get onto blogs. You can try and get onto podcasts. You can try all of these things. But the more opportunities you have to get free publicity or free marketing, you should take advantage of them. You know, some of these, websites will allow you to post your stuff and things like that. In some of your areas, there's lots of really good Facebook groups, really, really good Facebook groups. And these are some of the opportunities. So I'm going to encourage you, if you don't have much budget, to be creative and try and find some free ways for you to get customers into your store. Now, social media can be a very, very powerful thing, but it can also take a lot of your time. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to be very strategic about it. Is firstly, find out where your customers are hanging out. That's the first thing you want to do. And then secondly, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you regularly share content. and make it very, very easy to share. Things that people want to see on social media are the things that are basically boring to you. They are boring to you, but not boring to your customer. Things like when new inventory comes in, things like the way you make this product, things like the way we deliver things. All of those things are the things that your customers want to do. And you've got to get into a habit, if you've decided that social media is going to be your thing, is that you've got to do it every day. Or let's say every day is too often, 3 times a week or 2 times a week or once a week, whatever. But the idea here is this stuff only works when it's consistent, when you consistently post stuff. And I find myself and many small business owners, that is one of our biggest problems, is consistency. You get all excited about a marketing tool, we start trying it, and then it doesn't work. Well, let me give you a very good example. When I was in retail, we used to do flyers, but we never used to do flyers once in a while. We used to do flyers every single week. Was it painful? Absolutely. But the point is, that's when things work. Things work when you do it regularly. So I would rather see you doing 1,000 flyers 10 times than 10,000 flyers one time. And this is very, very important in every single thing you do, and any website marketing and stuff that you do. But again, the idea here is you don't have to choose any of these that I'm speaking about, but you've got to choose marketing tools that work for you. When it comes to social media, I mentioned earlier on that you've got to be strategic. You've got to be consistent. And one of the most consistent ways of doing this is to come up with a plan. So decide for yourself what works for you. Is I'm going to do Facebook 3 times a week. I'm going to Twitter 4 times a week. I'm going to create a video once a week, or whatever it is. But create it almost like a habit for yourself. Otherwise, it becomes a pain in the ass. And that's not what you want marketing to be. And that's not what you want social media to be. You want it to be effective. So I would encourage all of you to come up with a very, very simple plan. One of the ways you could do this, or one of the ways we do it, for example, not in BizLaunch, but in another business that we help with, is we create a calendar of all the events. Okay, so all the events for the year, Easter, Valentine's Day, whatever it is. I mean, you can go online and you can see events for just about every week in the year. And then you want to create content around those events. So I was using an example earlier on of Easter. And Easter for me is hot cross buns. I don't know if it's for anybody else, but for me, when I was brought up and because of my retail business, there was hot cross buns. Actually, even my friends, when they see hot cross buns this time of the year, they'll message me and say, I saw hot cross buns. Yeah, should I get you some? And usually they do, and they're not always what I expect, because we used to make them really well when I was in a retail store. But the key here is to create excitement in your store, is to create interest, to create consistency. So I know that every Wednesday, you're going to have a promotion on Facebook. Every Tuesday, I will see your video. Every Wednesday, whatever it is. Consistency is important. And I must be honest, I'm not the most consistent person when it comes to social media. And maybe that's the reason I don't like it. Is because you have to be consistent to do it effective. Another big opportunity that we maybe mentioned on one of our previous webinars is using AI. I think this is a very, very big opportunity for small business, especially when it comes to content development. I use that chat AI, and I'm shocked at how many times I use it. And it's very, very convenient when you're trying to create content. Just be very careful. But it's very, very convenient when you don't have an idea of content. You can go on to ChatGPT, to the Chat AI, and you can create content. And I don't know if any of you are doing it, but I know a lot of small businesses, including myself, are using it to create content. If you're looking for templates, I encourage you to go and check this website. I don't know if any of you, actually this page and the next page, actually better. Hootsuite is a platform. So they are a social media platform, actually a measuring tool. They've been around for a long time. I'm not sure they're as good as they used to be in the beginning, but I just went on to Google and typed in social media strategy template, and I found this one. And you can see it's really, really simple. It starts off, these are my business objectives. This is my social media goal, and how am I going to measure the effectiveness? Again, what you're creating is you're creating a bit of structure. And I think that's the really important thing, is that it's like creating videos, for example. If you don't have a strategy, you're probably not going to do it properly. Althina, you asked me for a link to this thing. I will send the slides through to Chris, and then you can just ask him. There you go. Chris has done it there. Oh, you've done it already. Wonderful. Thank you. But there's an example of a template. The other thing you want to be doing, and I mentioned this earlier on, but it's worth repeating, is email marketing. I think email marketing is one of the best strategies. But I'm going to give you an example. This morning, my son Daniel, he runs an online e-commerce business. And one of the things that I saw, so he sells a product. But one of the things that I saw this morning that I thought was really, really smart, what he's done is he's partnered with somebody else that's got an e-commerce store. He's partnered with them, and he sent that guy's product to his database, and that guy sent it to his database, which is really, really smart. So basically think of it like this, is I've got 500 emails, you've got 500 emails. Together, we're sending it to 1,000 emails. And the nice thing is the costs are minimal. And that is why I like email marketing. So when I go into small business and they don't ask for my email, that doesn't mean I'm going to give it to them. But when they don't ask for an email, I think to myself, why would you not do that? And this is maybe one thing that you can learn from me today. And I always say to people, whenever you come to a seminar or webinar, you want to learn at least one thing. And one thing you can learn from me today is the importance of email marketing. And this is the way email marketing works. Firstly, you decide on what platform you're going to use. And there's so many different ones out there. I know people were using MailChimp and Constant Contact or whatever it is, but you should use one of those. Don't just send it from your email. We use one called, I can't remember now. Email, well, no, I can't remember. I'll think of it now. But it's Email Octopus. That's what we use. And it's very, very effective. But let me tell you why I like any of these email software. Is firstly, it's easy to set up. Even if you're not smart like me, you can go in there, you just upload your database, they check it out for you. It's very, very easy to email. So you can set it up, you can copy it, you can create tracking URLs, you can do all of those things. And any marketing that you can do that you can measure, I like. And that's why I really like email marketing. The other thing is, if you go to a website, which most of us have, just put a form on your website. Just put a form on your website. Collect emails. Let this thing collect your emails. And understand that, even when people give you the emails, that doesn't mean they're going to buy your stuff. That doesn't mean they're even going to be, continue to be on your database. But it's better than you're not doing anything. So maybe you not grow a massive email database, but at least you'll get some people's emails. The other thing you can do is you can put a tab on your Facebook page. You can share a link on social media. But the point I'm trying to get across is that once you have my email address, you can market to me. So people that are doing a great job is things like Amazon, things like I buy these walking shoes that I walk in called Hoka. And every week, sometimes twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, they'll send me an email. Do I get angry with them? Absolutely not. Do I look at the emails all the time? No. Will I unsubscribe? If I want to, I can. Do you understand? But I've given them permission to market to me. And I regularly read the emails. So if you want, actually, let me go back to that. Earlier on, I was talking about AI. You can use AI to create an email marketing campaign for you. So if you're not good at it like me, I know recently I just tried it. I went into chat, whatever, it said CGT. I went into chat CGT and I typed in create a summer email for me, and it wrote up this whole email. And I thought, you know what, it's just so easy nowadays. But this is one of my favorite websites. I encourage all of you to go and check this out. And if you're interested in marketing, HubSpot has got some absolutely brilliant content, really, really good. And it's amazing because every single time I Google for something, which is what I did here, is I will find a different article. And yeah, I was looking for subject lines. So, let's say, for example, you find a good subject line. You can then go into chat, ask it to create some 10 different subject lines for you. You can choose the best one and use it. And it's very, very easy to do, which I think is really, really important. Yeah, it's a Chat GPT. I can never remember the acronym. Thank you, JD. Any chance we can get a recording of this webinar? Absolutely. We mentioned that earlier on, Jackie, that we record all of these webinars. And actually, if you go back in the chat, you'll see a link to where you find all the recordings, okay? So hopefully that helps you, Jackie. Anyway, but here's an example. You don't have to be smart. And I'm always looking for simple solutions. I'm not a good writer, even though when I say that I've written 2 books on small business, but I'm not a good writer. And I don't always want to give it to one of my writers to write for me. So I use things like this, subject lines, and I use AI, which works very, very well for me, okay? So again, you want to try and be creative. But here's the thing I'm going to say over and over again, is you've got to be consistent. Because marketing only works when you're consistent. And it can be painful to be consistent. The other thing you want to do is work on an online marketing strategy. A lot of us have websites, and we're guilty because we've created these websites a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it is. We never actually update our website. But really, it's not a difficult thing to do. Things that you want to do on a regular basis, you want to update content, you want to put a blog on there, you want to do those type of things. But here's something that works really, really well is search engine optimization. So you and I will go to these seminars and somebody will say, you need to do SEO, or you'll see these ads. I get them every single day in my email about we can do SEO for you and things like that. And I've got nothing against SEO. I think it's very, very good. If done properly, it's very, very effective. And I've got an example of a business owner that I hang around with regularly. He does games, big games for like outdoor experiential marketing events, and he's made a lot of money out of SEO. But here's the part that sometimes business owners miss out is, let's say I'm an SEO expert. I understand how SEO works, but you have got to supply me the content. And that is the key. And it mustn't be too generic. So some of the things that you can do, and I did this, for example, I did this earlier on yesterday. I went and I found this article. There you go, on Search Engine Journal, which is quite a reputable, I would say, place to get content from. I like HubSpot, that Hootsuite one, and even the Search Engine Journal. They're all like legit sites. They're not like spam. But I just Googled how to use Chat GPT to improve your SEO. And this is what they said. People are using it to create content. People are using it to do keyword search and analysis and generating good SEO titles. So here's what I'm encouraging you to do, is understand how SEO works. SEO is, what are people typing in when they're searching for my stuff? And then collect lists of these things, and then find somebody that does SEO. If you can do it yourself, good for you, but I can't. But find somebody that can do SEO. Maybe I can, but I don't have the patience. But find somebody that can do SEO and then give them this stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if I'm your SEO expert, if you give me keywords, if you give me content, I can make your SEO more effective. If you give me photographs, you give me videos. The problem is with a lot of small business owners, we go to somebody, a so-called expert, we don't give them enough content, they don't have enough information, and the SEO doesn't work. Okay, so these are some of your strategies. Maybe you're going to decide, you know what, over the next 12 months, I want to get more traffic. The next one that is really, really important is customer service. And let me tell you something, like we've been through 3 years of an absolute disaster. And customers have been very, very accommodating. Let's be honest. Many times you and I over the last 3 years have made excuses for suppliers and all that type of stuff because we had logistic problems, and then we couldn't go into stores and all those type of things. That's what's happened. From now on, that's not what's going to happen. Because as retailers, we've got a big problem. One of the challenges we've got is that a lot of people have moved a lot of their purchases online. That doesn't mean they won't come back to us, but they've been doing it for the last 3 years because they had no option. Now we've got to move them back into our store. But because we've got so used to buying on e-commerce, I know I'm like that, is that I don't go to stores as often as I used to. But if I do go to a store, it's because I want a special service. If the service in a store is just average or worse than I would get online, why would I do that? So here's the thing that we've got to learn to do from today onwards is become fanatical about customer service and spend as much time as possible on our floors, speaking to our customers, interacting with them, building relationships with them, providing them a unique and better service, and asking them for referrals. Say to your customers, I am trying to grow my business. Do you know anybody else that needs content, that needs my stuff, that needs what we sell? Then what you want to do is you want to work on your lead nurturing strategy, which I discussed enough earlier on. I think it's quite important, but you got to learn how are you going to capture leads. So after this webinar, you're going to think to yourself, how am I going to get leads first? Secondly, how am I going to capture these leads? Thirdly, so capture these leads, where am I going to put these things? It sounds simplistic, but you got to find a place, usually a CRM software. And then how am I going to nurture them? So how often am I going to communicate with these things? And then what you want to do is you want to come up with a sales conversion strategy. And let me say something to you, is that converting somebody from a potential buyer to a buyer often means educating them. So here's the thing we've got to learn as business owners, is if we're trying to sell stuff, or if you've got people that are trying to sell our stuff, whether it's retail or direct to consumer, is we've got to understand the importance of education. We've got to be knowledgeable in the product or service that we sell. Because we're knowledgeable in the product or service we sell, our customers will appreciate that, trust us, and then buy our stuff. And one of the strategies you could do is create sales scripts. And I know we don't want to standardize things too much or whatever it is, but sales scripts are sometimes a solution. Because especially if you've got new salespeople, there are questions to be asked. If you're coming to order a wedding cake from us, when's the wedding? How many tiers do you want? How many pieces? Blah, 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 blah. All of these things are very, very important. But instead of memorizing these things, you want to write them down. Because if you educate the customer, you ask them the questions, they will be comfortable to make the purchasing decision from it. But you can standardize this by creating a structure. The next thing you want to focus on is budget. How much am I going to spend on marketing? And let me give you a ballpark number or a percentage. For me, if you're in retail, I would like you to spend between 3 and 5% of your revenue on marketing. So that is on flyers, on branding, on email, on all of those type of things, 3 to 5%. And do it continuously. You don't stop. Consistency is the key. If you're a service business, you can spend 10% or above of your revenue. And the idea is to just keep marketing. Consistency is very, very important. The second thing that I think is important is time. Time is very, very important for marketing because you got to spend time with your customers. You got to educate them. You got to spend time on social. You got to analyze the results. And if you do that, you're going to improve your marketing. But you've got to allocate time for these things. So you've got to allocate budget for marketing. You've got to allocate time for marketing. And that's when it's going to succeed. And I promise you, if you stick to these basics, you can improve your marketing. There's no doubt in my mind you can improve your marketing. But the key thing is when you make a decision about should I use this marketing tool or not, is how do you measure the success? And I think that is the key thing, is if you're going to do flyers, then you want to measure how effective were those. If you're going to be doing SEO, you want to measure the sales, the extra sales that were generated because of SEO. So it's very, very important that you come up with KPIs or key performance indicators or metrics or whatever it is. And you set yourself targets, very, very specific targets. That is the way marketing works. So let me summarize again. If you want to improve your marketing over the next 12 months, here's a very, very simple model you can use. Firstly, be very, very clear on what your marketing objectives are for the next 12 months. Secondly, be clear on who your target customers are. Maybe they're existing customers. Maybe they're the same customers that you're selling to now, but maybe you're going to go after a new demographic or a new group of people. Decide and make a decision. Thirdly, on a regular basis, don't take it personally. It's got nothing to do with ethics. You need to know who your competitors are, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and how much are they charging for similar products or services. You need to know that. Your value is very, very important. Why should I buy from you rather than your competitors? You need to differentiate yourself. You need to find those things. Is it the roasted peanuts? Is it the cinnamon buns? Is it the chocolate coated peanut? Whatever it is, you've got to find something that differentiates you in your business, because service, prices, and quality are just not enough. You want to identify marketing tools that work for you, not because you went to a seminar last week or a webinar and somebody said you need to use TikTok. All of a sudden you want to be using TikTok because that's the way you're going to scale your business really quickly. Do what works for you. And that's the important thing when it comes to marketing. Test things. If they're working, you keep doing them. They're not working, you stop doing them. Make sure you work on your customer service. Remember, customers want a reason to come into your store. They want to come into your store. They want to feel like they're welcome. They want a special experience. Otherwise, they're just going to do it online. They're just going to do it online, or they're just going to go to the big box retailers because they're going to pay less. They're not going to get service, but they don't care because you're not giving them service anyway. So just understand that. Is in a small business, you can't compete on price. So you got to compete on just being nice to people and building relationships. Develop a lead nurturing strategy. So if somebody phones you, they email you, they whatever, you follow up, because a lot of us are losing business because we're just not following up. Make sure you set yourself a budget, allocate money and time towards your marketing. And finally, and most importantly, is measure the effectiveness of every single marketing tool. You know, every now and then I'll hear people saying, well, at least we're getting out there. That is not how you make money, by at least getting out there and blaming the system and saying, well, this doesn't work and it's not fair. And I don't know why people are not buying our stuff, whatever it is. You've got to create the excitement. You've got to try and change things and be innovative and creative and fail and all of these things. And that's the way your marketing works. Is it easy? Absolutely not. But can you do it? There's no doubt in my mind. You don't have to use my template. You know, go online, find a different template, and work on creating a marketing plan for your business. Stick to it and update it every 90 days. And I think your chances of succeeding are much better. All right. On Thursday, we're having a Q&A session. So if you haven't signed up for that one yet, I encourage you to sign up. And then I'm going to discuss a couple of specific ideas and examples on Thursday. But keep signing up for these webinars. Remember, the next final ones in this series are next week, Tuesday and Thursday. Make sure you get out there and start working on your marketing plan. Try it, it works. And I want you to succeed. But the only way you're going to succeed is if you focus on doing these things over and over again, consistently, and doing it well. Thank you very much. And I'll see you on Thursday, same time, same place. Have a great afternoon, everyone.